Honda Talon or Honda Pioneer? Tough choice, but maybe you're in a boat like I was where you really like the Honda dependability. You like the dual clutch transmission and you didn't want to go with the machine that uses a belt. And again, nothing wrong with the machines that uses belts. It's obviously a proven reliable platform, hence why so many companies have the CVT or belt type system as their drivetrain. But if you've decided that you've narrowed it down to a Honda and you're trying to figure out which one is right for me, maybe a little bit more work, maybe a little bit more play, well then this video is going to be for you. I have been riding the Honda system for probably 4 years now, and I love it. I really do. And that's why I started with the Pioneer, and that's why I have the Talon now. And what was cool is that going from one to the other was really familiar. So no matter what you decide, if you have one and you're looking to switch or vice versa, what I found was going from my Pioneer after about 3,000 miles to the Talon is it felt just very familiar. The drivetrain, the shifting, everything was just right where I knew it to be, and it was familiar, so it wasn't like completely learning a new machine. They actually drove in some ways pretty similar, albeit the Talon is more sporty, better suspension, better ride, a little bit faster, but the shift points, even the maintenance after doing the first service on the Talon, the oil change, everything like that, was all the same because they do share the same engine and transmission, which comes from that Africa Twin, DNA. So it's a proven system. Now, if you're in a situation where you're trying to decide, you want the Honda, you want the transmission, you want all of that, and again, nothing against any of the other machines out there, because there are some really, really nice machines, and I'm going to be doing some future content on some of those other brands, but right now this is just about the Hondas. But now you're trying to decide which one do I get. Well, I'm going to go over what I like and some of what I don't like now that I have about 500 miles on the Talon and a few thousand on the Pioneer. So let's talk about the extremes. If you are looking for a work or utility machine, no brainer, go with the Pioneer. It has a 2,000 pound towing capacity, 1,000 pound payload, and the newer models are even more, and it has a dumping bed. So obviously if you need to haul anything, even when I have used it for work stuff, it has worked absolutely great. So work, no brainer. You're going to go with the Pioneer. On the other hand, if you're all about sport and trail, well then the Talon is the easy choice. This thing is their sport trail machine. This particular one has the live valve suspension, which means it's constantly adjusting the ride as you go, as a normal and a sport mode. Now, one thing I wish it also had was like a plush or soft mode, because there's sometimes when it's over really technical or like washboard terrain, I do wish the suspension was a little bit softer. I know some people look at different springs and valving, and I haven't gone down that route yet, maybe someday, but I do wish there was like a super soft mode, a 3 position mode versus just the normal and sport. But if you're looking for strictly trails, it has the bucket seats, it has the suspension, it has the travel, it is all in all a sport trail machine, well then no brainer. Now the downsides, even if you wanted to use this for a little chores, you're limited to just 300 pound payload capacity in the box. There's no hitch from the factory. It's not really designed to tow, not really designed to carry a lot of things, no dumping bed, anything like that. This is obviously meant for all play and really not much of a utility or work machine. Could you probably try to make it work? Yep, you could, but that's really not the goal of the Talon. However, if you're looking for maybe some work and some play, then it becomes a little bit more cloudy. Things I like about that when I'm in the Pioneer is that this thing is an incredibly capable machine. Now, I added suspension and a lift. We'll talk about that. But the capability of the machine has never let me down. I have climbed trails, hills, gone over obstacles, gone through technical terrain that no problem going through anything or keeping up with the sport machines. Now, does the Pioneer have the speed to keep up with them on a straight line or anything like that? Nope, absolutely not, but that's not what it's made for. However, if you're worried about the capability of the Pioneer, don't worry at all. Some of the upgrades that I've had to make it more sporty have definitely helped, but even stock Pioneers have been nicknamed these little billy goats because they just climb and go through terrain like nobody's business. Trail riding in the Talon is obviously where it's at because we have these bucket seats and we definitely have more of a cockpit type ride. So I'm actually able to sit back, get my feet down. I'm sitting more back, definitely more cockpit type feeling or race car type feeling. I have the shifters, but one thing that I did notice right away when I switched to the Talon is that there is less cab room. So I'm a decent sized guy, and once I get the door closed, I notice that there is a little bit less shoulder room, and there's just a little bit less width as far as from seat to seat. Whereas the Pioneer, I've had 3 people sitting up front on the bench seat before. The Honda Talon is definitely more narrow, and that's designed that way, so it's a little bit more nimble and handling in the trails. So definitely keep in mind, it's going to be a little bit more crouched, a little bit more cramped versus the roomy cab of that wide Pioneer. But as far as trail riding, it's a lot of fun. I mean, I'm not going to lie. This thing, as soon as I got on it on my first trail ride, especially coming from the Pioneer, it put a smile on my face to where, like, this is obviously where I'm going. I do more trail and sport type riding, so this is a better fit for me right now. Now, trail riding in the Pioneer is still very doable, and we've had multiple trips where we've done over 100 miles, and I even did a 500-mile overlanding trip in the Pioneer. However, when it comes from the factory with the bench seat, that bench seat for long days definitely is not as comfortable as the buckets, which is why I added the buckets in the Pioneer. Now, these are actually Talon takeoffs that I found on Marketplace, and then I had to make some brackets. So it's comfortable. I do have a lot more support, but I'm sitting more upright and a little bit more forward. We joke that we call it the high chair when other people get in because you're sitting so much taller, and you're definitely sitting more upright. Like, my seat and leg position is more upright, and some people have joked in that it feels more like a forklift in a way than kind of more of like a cockpit. So I think it's a little bit more comfortable. I like the dead pedal. I have a little knee pad here, but because you're sitting more upright, there's also a little bit more risk because the door is lower and it was designed for that bench seat. So you're always going to want to make sure you have a seat belt, or if you did something like this, ideally even a harness, which again, from the factory, this is designed for utility. So that bench seat, it doesn't really set itself up for harnesses. Whereas on the Talon, it comes from the factory ready to go to add harnesses for those trail and sport type positions. That's one of the coolest parts about the Pioneer 1005 is I have these seats in the box, and I'd be lying if I told you there hasn't been a time or few where we've been on the trail and we've had to fold these seats up and pick somebody up because their machine broke down on the trail and we needed to give them a ride. So it's nice, it's compact, and I can have the seats down and I can haul things. I can have my coolers, I can have gear, I can have whatever. But if you need it, you open it up, you fold up the seats, and now you have that. So that's the versatility of what really attracted me to the Pioneer in the first place that I absolutely love. Plus all the storage hacks, man, I am going to miss those for sure. There's not as much storage or even hacks and mods available for the Talon compared to the Pioneer. I mean, seriously, I still love all the storage hacks. I love my secret compartments and storage. I really will miss that. Now, when it comes to ride and suspension, I obviously had to do a little bit of work to the Pioneer. Now, there is the trail model, and if I was buying a Pioneer right now, I would really look at that trail model with the Fox shocks from the factory. But as you can see, I added the Texas Tough Customs 3-inch lift kit and the Elka Stage 4 shocks. And all of that did really improve the capability, the clearance, the ride. I'm actually able to go on some pretty technical terrain and keep up pretty good with the sport rigs with this setup. Now, is it quite as comfortable? No. Is it quite as smooth? No, as it is still a utility machine at heart, but there are some options, and it's very, very capable. That clearance added for technical climbing, power, all that stuff, I never had any issues with going up trails, up hills, around obstacles, no issues whatsoever, and the clearance was certainly a big plus. Now, what drew me to the Talon from the factory is we already had the increased travel. This one has the Fox live valve shocks, which already, these shocks are just huge compared to what's available on the Pioneer. The travel, the ride, the trailing arms, the radius rods, all of that suspension geometry does lead to a better ride on the trail. So there's no doubt about it. If you're looking for the trails or sports, the Talon and the impressive suspension and ride is just crazy. There's a whoop section on some trails nearby that were very, very whiplashy in the Pioneer because of that shorter wheelbase. And the Talon, we were able just to skip over the top and take them at a speed that I was actually really surprised once I looked down at the speedometer. Now, I know Some people are going to say I'm not comparing apples to apples because this is a two-seater, basically wheelbase versus the four-seater, and you're totally right. I do realize that Pioneer now is available in a 1006, which is the longer true four-door model, and I got to ride that around the mountains of Montana, and I absolutely love it. And I do feel it is a smoother machine, which is part of the reason why I went with the four-seater on the Talon to get that longer wheelbase. The Pioneer comes with a 2-inch hitch, so I can tow a good amount. One thing I wish the Pioneer had was a spot to hook up safety chains. I don't know if that was like an omission on purpose or if they wanted to restrict the style of towing or whatever, but it has a 2-inch hitch. But come on, give me a spot to hook up my safety chains. Whereas we look at the back end of the Talon, we do have a spot to pull, so we could easily hook up like a soft shackle or something like here if we needed to recover, either ourselves or another machine. We have the radius rods and the trailing arms and then those shocks, but we don't have a spot to add a trailer. Now I know there are some aftermarket stuff to add a trailer hitch. I haven't done a ton of research on capabilities, towing capacity. I don't know if that changes much with the suspension, but the drivetrain is the same. So obviously it's capable of towing, but it's not designed from that, as you can see from the factory. One other thing I liked about the Talon, not to mention those shocks, which we talked about before, but how much more accessible the engine is for maintenance. Oil changes, the dipstick for maintenance, just checking things. If I needed to change the oil filters are accessible right here. I definitely like how everything is a little bit more open and accessible in the Talon versus the Pioneer. Not to say that the Pioneer is hard to work on, but the Talon is just right here. Now, aside from the suspension and the ride, the obvious difference between my new Talon and my old Pioneer is that I chose a true four-door model because I wanted that extended wheelbase. Not only does it help with the ride, but it does give my backseat passengers some extra room. Now, as far as accessories go, I have my Pioneer tricked out about as tricked out, I think, as you can get. The suspension, the lift, the Switch Pro, the seats that were aftermarket, dome lights, the cab. This is a 3-star UTV enclosure with the soft doors and soft roof. There's a lot of accessories available for the Pioneer. Accessories for the Talon are also available. And one of the cool things with Honda is that if you buy it at the time you buy your machine, the accessories are covered for the duration of the factory warranty. So from the dealer, I went with the glass windshield and the soft upper door kit. Now, one of the things I really liked about the soft upper door kit is arguably it's the nicest I've ever seen, whether factory or aftermarket. The molding of the ballistic nylon and the interface, the field of view with this large window, it just is seamless, and it is designed and it came together really well. Now, the only complaint I have is that the zippers on the windows on the Talon are a very fine, almost like a jacket zipper, and sometimes they get clogged up with dust, whereas like on the aftermarket, it uses a much beefier YKK zipper that I wish Honda would have used from the factory on their accessory kit. One thing I wish Honda would do on either model is have matching wheels and tires all around. So one of the first things I did on the Talon was put 15-inch wheels with 30-inch tires all the way around. Honda did beef up the axles in 23 and newer models to kind of take into account that people are going to put larger tires on it. I also have 30s on 15-inch wheels on the Pioneer as well. Prior to that, I had 28s on some 14s. But again, from the factory, they come with 14-inch wheels and then wider tires and wheels in the back on both machines. So the downside with that is that if you're going to have a spare, you're probably better off having a spare front because that can go on any corner. But one of the things I did was just got matching wheels. I can have one spare. I added spacers on the back of both machines so that we have matching width, and I can run one size wheel and tire on all four corners. I do think from the factory, both should come with matching wheels, and it would be awesome if they were a little bit larger because the 30s on the Talon definitely added a little bit of much needed clearance. Same thing on the Pioneer, and it does help, in my opinion, the ride a little bit as well. So I'd love to see better tires and wheels from the factory. A lot of the other companies offer 30s, 32s, etc. on their sport machines, and even some 30s or larger tires on their trail and utility machines, and I'd love to see a little bit better or updated of a wheel and tire offering from Honda. One of my absolute favorite things about the Pioneer, and it is missing on the Talon, is the drive modes. I absolutely love having a turf mode, and I really miss that in the Talon, especially when I'm cruising down forest roads or maybe the occasional pavement section to connect on trails or whatever. Having that turf mode is just, I really, really miss it. Like when I take a turn on any tight or pavement or whatever, the rear end wants to, you know, kind of hop and chirp, and I don't think it's good for it being a locked rear differential. So that's the thing I love about the Pioneer. Turf mode, 2-wheel drive, rear locked. I have 4-wheel drive, or I have a full locked 4-wheel drive, because this one does not have the i 4-wheel drive. The Talon, on the other hand, does have 2-wheel drive, which is a locked rear diff, and i 4-wheel drive. So it is a better system, they say. The traction control and the computer can sense when a wheel is spinning, and it'll actually apply traction to the wheels that have traction and not to the ones that don't. But I do miss having a turf mode, and I wish the Talon had a turf mode. It would be so cool if I could disconnect the rear. But, you know, that's just how it goes. There's always trade-offs. Well, leave a comment down below and let me know which one you would have picked. Hopefully this has helped either maybe you decide on which one you should get, or maybe decide to keep the one you have or switch sides or whatever. But let me know in the comment section below. What are you going to go with? Are you looking for more work, a little play, or are you still playing a lot and you're running a Honda Pioneer? Or are you all sport and trail and you went with Team Talon? Let me know in the comment section below. If you guys like the content, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. We are a new channel. We're trying to grow. Any help on that front would definitely be appreciated. Thank you very much for watching, and have a great day.